Can you share with the audience what you mean by queer?
I think that's a different question, right? If you think about queer, as a theoretical term, right? A specific definition of it, something that's strange and oppositional, right? And strange and oppositional in the context of what we see as a normative performance of masculinity. I think in that context, Michael Jackson clearly was queer, right? But as AJ mentioned in his presentation, Michael was also, Michael wasn't, for all the artistry that we talk about him, right? He was a commercial animal, right? He wanted to sell records. He wanted to sell more records than anybody possible. And you don't sell 100 million records without selling 100 million records to every possible person in the room, which means you learn how to market and promote yourself in a way that's complex and multifaceted, that speaks very different things to very different audiences. So that when you hear, the question that came in that last question about, how every different person had a different opinion of him, that wasn't accidental. I mean, that was Michael trying to reach as many audiences as possible. And if you look at, the state of black R&B at the beginning of the 1980s, and if Michael wants to sell 100 million records, Michael has to be able to be on the wall, the bedrooms, the little white girls, and big posters.
Exactly.
And how does he do that if he comes off as a threatening, he can't be Teddy Pendergrass. Right? Just put that in some sort of context, right? He doesn't sell 100 million records as Teddy. I mean, that's the reason why Teddy Pendergrass doesn't sell 100 million records, right? Because in terms of the whole history of black masculinity and sexuality, Teddy Pendergrass scared the shit out of a bunch of folks. Right? Even if he had the capability of coming off as sensitive and introspective, that if you really listen closely to his music, is clearly there. When you see the stories of Rick James, right? And some of y'all may be too young to remember the battles between Rick James and Prince. Right? I mean, there was an incredible, jealousy between the two of them. And Prince would show up at Rick James concerts, right? With his little bodyguards carrying him on like a little throne, like going through the lines, right? Because they were both vying for the same audience, right? They were kind of legacies of Jimi Hendrix. They wanted to be, what did Rick James call his music? Punk funk, right? He was trying to cross over in that sort of context. They're both vying for this, and Michael was like, neither one of y'all are going to cross over because you're too hypersexual, right? You're too hypermasculine, despite the little glitter in your hair and the bikinis on stage when you open in for the Rolling Stones and all that kind of stuff. And so Michael had to perfect a performance, right? Peter Pan, right? That was non-threatening, that was soothing everybody. I mean, so their parents, right? You're talking about, this is a generation after parents are like, we can't have any rock and roll in the house, right? Parents have to be able to go, oh, that's safe, right? That's good music. Right? We'd invite Michael over to dinner, right? Nancy Reagan and Ronald Reagan at the White House. Let's give Michael Jackson an award, right? Because he's such a great role model, right? I mean, so all of that was very calculated, right? And he understood that he performed a certain kind of queer black masculinity, right? It would get him access to those audiences that he wouldn't necessarily have access to.
Nice.